Senior Oral Defense Presentation and thus the Senior Extended Essay course. I want to remind the audience that it is essential that you give your full and undivided attention to the person at the front of the room. So I would like you now to take out your phone and look at it, okay? Make sure that it's off, like truly off. And then just put it down, put it away, okay? If you're a senior currently enrolled in the Senior Extended Essay course, or a senior who's still completing work for the course last semester, remember to go online and do 2 reviews of student presentations by the end of the week, okay? Those 2 reviews are due and they're part of your final grade. You want to make sure that you get those points. And the only time that you'll hear that from me is in these presentations from Mike. At the end of the presentations today, there'll be a question and answer session. And again, as always, I encourage you to ask critical questions that will help the people presenting push their essay to the next level in the final written draft, okay? It's very generous of you to do that kind of questioning, and you're helping people to expand their writing and their thoughts when you do that. Are there any questions about that? Okay, so you all, well, if you're a senior, you know that we first met each other when I was new to Carroll Morgan and was teaching the SAT prep class. The young man who's presenting first is, I think, I don't know Jose Ramon outside of class, so we public spaces yet, but I have a feeling that this young man is an excellent poker player. A good word to describe him would be inscrutable. Jose Ramon, thank you so much for being here.
So, good morning. Today we're presenting the energy crisis in the Dominican Republic. So, what's going on? Over decades, the Dominican energy structure has had some flaws which are not looked at because it seemed not important to those in the government. The lack of energy in the country's northern part, also known as El Cibao, is very short, and villages across these areas are often being hit with what some people will call apagones, or blackouts. This ongoing problem does not seem to be fixed in the horizon, because private companies which apply most of the energy to the country focus in parts which consume the most energy and will in turn create most profits for themselves. So who's being affected? The majority of small town workers, or gente del campo, are the ones that are greatest affected by these energy blackouts. These campesinos have a salary of around $200 a month, so you can understand in a blackout for 4 to 5 hours may severely damage their food. And with the lack of money to buy other products, families and youngsters may not see food for days at a time. So here I have a testimonial of people, the ongoing problem that's going on in the Dominican Republic.
Ignacio.
¿Con cuánta frecuencia pasan los apagones?
Bueno, diario.
¿Desde con cuánta frecuencia pasan los apagones? ¿Con cuánta frecuencia pasan los apagones por un día libre?
Yo vivo como a veces así,
A la semana, sí.
2 o 3 veces.
Okay. ¿Y con cuánta frecuencia pasan los apagones por un día libre?
Los apagones, frecuentemente, bueno, digamos que diariamente.
¿Y aproximadamente cuánto dura el apagón?
4 o 3 horas.
¿Y aproximadamente cuánto puede durar los apagones? ¿Con cuánta frecuencia pasan los apagones por un día libre?
Yo vivo como a veces así,
A la semana, sí.
2 o 3 veces.
Okay. ¿Y como cuánto dura el apagón?
Media hora, sí, 15 minutos.
¿Y qué es lo más afecta el apagón? ¿Y te daña la comida?
Aquí sí me puede confirmar. La mujer no puede lavar, no, porque te usa. Y ahí que la recién eso se daña, los productos que se dañan. En lo que yo consigo.
¿Y qué es lo que más te afecta de estos apagones?
Bueno, que se dañan los alimentos, se dañan la jamón, el queso, la carne, y eso me hace daño.
Y tú siempre tienes que comprar alimento nuevo cada vez que te dañe.
Bueno, si se daña.
Cuando te vas a poner en su casa, te daña todo. Y ustedes se quedan sin comida o tienen que ir al supermercado otra vez. Pero es muy difícil. Bueno, muchas gracias. ¿Y qué es lo que más afecta de los apagones? Si se daña la comida, ¿qué le pasa?
La nevera.
A ver.
Claro.
Sí, se le encuentra muy difícil eso, ¿no? Se le encuentra muy difícil cada vez que se daña el alimento.
Sí, claro.
So, why does this happen? Money is what all we crave, and can be considered the goal to many in life. This is what drives private companies to focus in other parts of the country, and have a blind eye to those who are the backbone. Most of the energy in the Dominican Republic is supplied by private companies such as Ejaina and CPM. The power plants controlled by these corporations are situated to the east side of the country, which shows the most tourists which come every year to Punta Cana. Since the government handouts PPA or power purchase agreements to create the power plants, investors are gravitated to the part of the country which hosts more people and thus more profit. Although some will blame the investors, they strongly believe the government also has the fault for these problems. Instead of giving energy to everyone in the country by forcing investors, they prefer to give PPA in other places and accept products. Corruption is a big shade which covers the whole world. What has been suggested? Many solutions have been given to high-ranking officials in the Dominican government, but there's no meaning for them. They're not interesting in what you want to say or what's best for the country we live in. The latest scandal facing Brazilian construction giant Odebrecht was a very good example of the ongoing problem in the island. More than $90 million were handed out in bribes to Dominican officials in order to get their projects approved by the state. Instead of these projects was the coal power plant Punta Catarina. As we all know, coal is very dangerous to the environment and can cause severe damage to the ozone layer, which protects us from UV rays entering Earth, but does not stop them. They overvalued the plant by $1.1 billion, which in a country such as ours, it's a big hit. To provide the necessary tools to create the power plant, a Chinese energy company was offering to make a natural gas-based plant for about $900 million, with the same potential to create energy at a lower cost and being more beneficial to the environment. But still, no PPA was granted to them. What has been tested? The reinstatement of some power plants has been issued in the northern part of the country. In Puerto Plata, for example, our private company is renovating its PPA in order to put their plant to work. But you may ask, why now? Well, there's a cruise terminal that just opened its doors in the northern part of the island. So this means investors are going to come in and barge in order to collect all the profits they can. But the reinstatement of this plant will not cut it. A large 600 megawatt plant, such as the one currently serves the Dominican capital, has to be strategically posted in the Cibao region in order to serve everybody in the face every day, and the jobs that could be created by these new projects. A short in the labor force, strong little, but they have to sacrifice personal economic gain for this to happen. So what do I propose? We have to design a prototype to fix the problem. I first have to see the communities when I have mapped out communities throughout the northern part of the country, I can create sources of energy and strategic supply will match the demand. I will focus more on the northern part of the island, since it is the one with major blackout problems throughout. I will also take into account communities which have large rivers around them, big plains in which wind, hydroelectric, or solar sources of energy can be implemented. I will build a detailed map of the island in which extent megawatts needed in the community and how it is not receiving from the energy plan implemented into the Dominican Republic. After this, I will create another map which I state new energy sources implemented into the energy structure, how many megawatts it will produce, and how it will be divided into those communities which are not receiving the necessary energy in their life. So, in order to have a happy Dominican Republic, we need to get electricity to all those parts of the island. Thank you very much.
the problems surrounding the Latina, as we all know. But do you think if it ends up becoming a reality, could it lead to a brighter future, or do you think that's not possible with this project?
I think that for the immediate future, it will be very good, since we will have more energy to cover the southern part, which also have a problem. Not the northern part, but it has. But in the future, I think in the past. So we need natural gas plants as the more alternative ways to get energy in order to progress and have a safer environment.
You mentioned the use of alternative tourist market, which
Okay. Right now, I believe in the northern parts, there are a lot of campos and places where you can grow food. I believe we can use energy and windmills. In other parts, let's say to the east, where we have a lot of plains, it's not a mountainous area, we create windmills that can serve as a tourist attraction, such as the one in the southern part of the island, which a lot of people visited and they can find it very good.
so you don't see the alternative energy sources as being in conflict with the tourist aesthetic.
Oh, no, I think it will complement it better. I mean, it will be more beneficial for private companies in the country in the future. To help.
For those planes that you say the river for, and how do you think that's gonna affect?
I mean, large sugar companies such as I think if we take a small piece, it will affect the plant.
What can I do as
Right now, there's marcha contra la impunidad. I believe that and a large group of people connecting and fighting for this, it will be changed. But right now, it's up to the government and the people, officials governing it.
So, I understand that the majority of blackouts happen because the lack of people paying their energy use and their electricity, and the great amounts of people that don't pay their bills. So what would be your solution for that?
Well, that's for every single person. That happens a lot during the country. That a lot of people are in debt because the mayor of the city began to change its policies because energy was very costly in Las Terrenas, and began to change it slowly progress. But that was the input of the people that changed it.
You made a video, Jose Ramon, and I'm very interested, and I really appreciate the way you put up the questions, so I knew what questions. Or I couldn't. Can you tell me what some of those people were saying so that I have a sense of what's being said?
Okay, so in the first question, when I asked them how frequently does it happen, they were saying, some were saying every day. It depends on it depends on the part of the island they are in. Some say it happens 3-4 times a week, but it's not the parts that affect them the most. It's the how long is it? Because it will get be like okay, very hard. Yeah.
Or something people can deal with.
Yeah, but the long ones.
It's a game changer.
Yeah.
It's a quality of life.
The last question when I asked him what affects it the most, he said the
Te encanta el tema de ciencia. Cuidado. Adepache. Yeah.
Okay, you guys, I'd like to go ahead and get started. If you have a cell phone with you in the house, I would like you to take it out, look at it, and make to the. I want you to make sure that as your questions that you can ask that will allow the presenter to demonstrate the full range of their knowledge, and then they can make sure that they have all that information in their final paper. Jose Ramon, you just finished your presentation. That went very well. Do you think so? I thought so too. Did you find the questions at the end helpful? Are you seeing some things that will help you push your final draft to where it needs to be?
I believe that there were some scopes of my research that I wasn't aware of. So I think I'm going to say,
Yeah, it shows you the places where you need to work. So my point to you guys, if you're not seniors yet and you're kind of looking ahead, when you ask questions at the end, it really helps the person make their project better, their final draft better. Craft a final draft of the essay, and then they hand that final draft to me, and then the final draft goes forward to committee. So you're still in the composition process, and it's really important that you help out with that. Are there any questions about that? You guys, these people ready up there in the back? Okay. So I want to commend the young man who is here with us today. It takes a lot of guts to do something that's hard for you, and then be asked to do it again, and to show up to do it again. So back by popular demand, we owe ourselves.
Okay, so social mobility. What is it? The ability of individuals or groups to move forward or downward. The definition of social class mobility is a little bit different because it does not exist. This might seem harsh or cruel or exaggerated, but the truth is that the only ones who live in life fairly and with the ability of working for a better life are us guys, the upper class and the upper middle class. Compared to us, Dominicans in lower classes don't stand a chance. So sure, every once in a while there might be an exception, but for the most part, we have it way easier than them. Good morning, my name is Julio Brusel, and today I will be presenting Not Yet Equal, Lack of Social Class Mobility in the Dominican Republic. According to a study from Banco Central, only 2% of the Dominican population were able to rise in the social pyramid, while 90% got worse and 79% remained the same in 2013. It is not shocking to hear that only 2% of the population was able to work for a better life. What surprised me the most was to find out that even though the social pyramid, this is very hard to live, a very hard one to live in. In the Dominican Republic, according to the Candido Mercedes, sociologist and expert in human resources, the Dominican Republic's richest 20% are earning 50% of the total income of the island, while the poorest 20% are earning only 5% of the money. This means that the gap from riches to extreme poverty is very big. The problem with this is that the upper class keeps getting richer. The lower class possibility of scaling up the social ladder or pyramid becomes a very small one. The upper class is not only getting richer, it is also getting stronger. The intellectual capacity of all Dominicans is the same, because we're all humans, so we're all equal, but it doesn't seem like that today. People in the lower classes would like to think about it as a match not worth playing. 2% of the Dominicans ages 15 to 24 did not receive education. 28% did not complete primary school. Only 10% graduated from high school. And only 16% received education after high school. The reason for this is that the following. According to la encuesta de la cultura económica y financiera del Banco Central, 59.7% of the Dominican homes earn less than 18,000 pesos per month. And only 3.9% of the Dominicans earn more than 20,000 pesos per month. The average earnings of the Dominican family were also discovered to be around 19,000 pesos per month. This is barely enough to feed a family of four. For every human on earth, eating is the most important thing. It is human instinct to eat in order to survive. Young Dominicans face a difficult task when trying to integrate themselves productively into society. All of this is because of the lack of jobs and professional opportunities offered to them. This makes poor people turn to working in the streets as they can't afford a good education and they need the money in order to survive. As soon as young kids leave their studies to work in the streets, all hope is lost. But it's not their fault. They don't know any better. They're just trying to feed their family and work for their family. They're just trying to help. In the long run, it might still, in the moment, it might seem like a better option, but in the long run, it's just getting themselves back into the cycle of poverty again. While the elite class, or the elite upper class, is still not affected by this. This is the ideal distribution of wealth that any country would dream for. In this case, the gap between the rich and the poor is not that big, and social mobility would be very common. Also, here, the hardest worker will be the one who benefits the most. Today, in the Dominican Republic, we see people in the streets from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or even more, and these people, I believe, that work, even though they're just walking the streets asking for money, but it's still really hard. It's really hard in here, and it's still hard work, and they are not benefiting from it. And it's all they can do, because they don't have any more opportunities. So, the causes of this problem is education and the corruption. In the DR, revealed that the Dominican Republic occupies place 146 out of 148 of countries in Latin America with the worst quality of education. And they are also the last in math and in writing. Also, Law 67-97 states that 4% of the GDP is required for education. In 2013, the Dominican Republic had to use 96 billion pesos for education. But by September, only 50% of the money had been used. And by the end of the year, 20% of the 96 billion were never used. So this 20% was lost. So it's basically 20 billion pesos that were never used. And they could have been used to fix a school, build a new university, hire new teachers, pay for training of new teachers, buy new school materials, and much more. But the money never appeared. The Dominican Republic of social mobility by correctly identifying the main source of the problem, education. The solutions were very superficial. The Dominican Republic attempted to fix the problems by simply teaching citizens how to read and write. But what we lack is critical thinking. We lack math. We lack real-life skills. Another failed solution was to teach people older than 80 years how to read and write. They only did this in order to lower the literacy rates and make a better image for the country and show people that they were doing something. But let's face it, the future is in the 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 20-year-olds, not in the people older than 80. And they're important too, but they're not the priority right now. Lidio Cade director of Programas Especiales de la Presidencia, affirms that the Dominican Republic has successfully reduced illiteracy in the country in people older than 15 years from 14 to 7%. According to the same article, the big drop in literacy rates in the Dominican Republic is mostly due to the plan Quisqueya Aprende Contigo. This is an organization whose main goal is to teach all Dominicans how to read and write, and to one day eliminate illiteracy in the Dominican Republic. The goal is to reach 1 million graduates of the program by the end of 2017. And right now, more than 600,000 Dominicans have signed up for it, and already more than 70,000 have graduated from it. In order to help solve social class mobility, it is important to teach the population how to read and write. Another factor that will increase the amount of children educated is a plan provided by the Dominican government, in which more than 300 businesses have been hired in order to provide Dominican students with meals and the nutrition that they need and deserve. Immediately, this will increase the amount of children going to school, because parents will no longer have to care for them. Therefore, the income of Dominican parents will not be used in order to live a better life. This will also allow the parents to work harder and focus more on his or her work life, giving him or her a greater possibility of getting a promotion or pay raise. So basically, people in the Dominican Republic start going to school because they have to work for their family and they have to work for their own food. But if the school provides food for them, maybe that would be an initiative for parents to send their kids to school, because they're saving money and their kids are going to school. Okay, according to Diario Libre, another solution that has been put into action is a construction and repair of schools that now work with a system of tandas extendidas. This system is basically making a school days longer to 8 hours per day, in which 36 of those weekly hours of the total 40 serve the purpose of teaching same basics we learn here, same basic curriculum, like math, reading, writing, and all that. And the extra 4 hours are used differently at each school, depending on what the majority of the kids need help on. This will again revolutionize the education system in the Dominican Republic by permitting more students to participate in activities that will actually teach them what they need to learn. The extra 4 hours will serve to feed the critical thinking skills of the Dominican youth. Again, Law 6797. The main problem with this law is that it's there, and we're supposed to get 4% of the dedication every year, and this is supposed to help us. But as I said before, people are not delivering this. And there's a big problem because, for example, with that extra 20 million we would have gotten in 2013, a lot can be done. It's 20 billion, a lot can be done. It's a lot of money, and it's full of possibilities. Thank you.
That help provide food at schools. So what, does that breakfast, lunch, how does that work?
Breakfast, lunch, and breakfast and lunch. It's the time they're at school, and it could be an initiative. That's one of the biggest problems, that parents don't want to send their kids to school because they're going to have to still care for them and feed them when they get home, and that's like because of their monetary problems. That's a big issue.
And I don't know very much about Dominican public schools right now. I assume they do have meal services, but the majority of the students have to pay for them. I mean,
It changes, but como que the meal services is not very good, or they don't get anything at all. They say they're going to give them something, but they're not getting anything.
Is the government doing anything to help?
The government is the ones taking the initiative to get in business with those 300 different businesses that want to help feed these kids at school. And also, Quisqueya Aprende Contigo is like it's owned by the government.
So the role of the government is to coordinate the efforts of private interests to help out?
It's like because I believe that in order to solve the issue, social mobility, there has to be a lot of things that have to work together. Because, for example, if there's no education, then it's never going to work. And if there's no job opportunities, it's also never going to work. So everything has to go right in order to work. So the government has to create jobs and give chances to the children to study, so they can later on in their lives apply for those jobs and be able to get them.
I understand that by doing like jobs, I mean by enforcing more the studies and education, like people would be able to increase more in the social status, but how do you plan on solving like people decreasing in the social status because that was like the problem as well?
Como que people going down in social status.
Because you said that 90%.
I believe that the reason why these people go down in social status is because they don't have the correct education and they don't know, oh, I made a big deal, I earned a lot of money this year and I think I'm the best in the world, and como que they think their life is como que perfect, so they just stop working and they go down. It's a lot like Dominican baseball players. As soon as they see money, they go crazy.
So, Law 6797, do we know where the rest of the money is? If it's not being spent on education, where is the money?
It's supposed to be used for the next year, but it was never used. Como que it never got here. And I don't have it right here, but it was 20% that year that wasn't used, then 30% another year, and 9% or something like that another year. So, como que it's a lot of accumulated money that can be used for a lot of different possibilities.
From those 2%, do you see more people coming from lower classes to middle class or from middle class to higher?
Middle class to higher class.
So the poor are really stuck.
Yeah.
So do you think it's smarter to start working to get more middle-class people more solidly into the middle class, or should we be working to try to get
No,
more?
we need to work with the poor first.
You know, what's been interesting to me, because I've seen several of these now, is how interconnected they all are. You know, the one I watched earlier about entrepreneurship, trying to encourage people to do their own jobs. The one I saw last week about sexual exploitation, which I think a lot of that comes from the idea of this break. I mean, it is all very complicated. It's interesting how interconnected the electricity is, he was saying. I mean, it's just really, I know to a certain extent, overwhelming.
It's hard to study if you don't have money.
Yeah, or food or everything.
Yeah, everything's connected.
Do you think who's more powerful?
Private interests from higher classes can be more powerful, but they don't use their power for good. So I believe the government is always going to have that say. So it's all depending on the government.
Thank you.
If you're in my leave, you need to give me your sheet that needs to have the information for both presentations on it, make sure your name's on it, and then we'll just stay here for the next 20 minutes.
Kathy.
That's for tightening the thing on the bottom. Good? Good. So do you want to go set up for
From 12 to 1:15.
There is a break here? Is that what that said?
No, that's what I saw in the calendar.
Pero tú tienes más chilling. Bueno, ahí como que ya. Como que ¿Eh? Hey, bye.
Tiene frío.
please prepare some critical questions to ask. The fact that the presentations are videotaped allows students to use the video to craft the final draft of their essay, the essay that is scored by committee and becomes the final examination grade in the senior extended essay class. So please be generous with each other and help each other prepare the best drafts possible by asking critical questions now. Are there any questions about that? Okay. When I met this year's senior class as juniors, I liked them immediately, but I noticed that there was a very high energy level in the class, okay? Especially in the very first group that I had. And I noticed that it was a challenge, focused attention was a challenge for many of the students in the SAT class. This is the quarter-long class, and frankly, some of you did not take it as seriously as you could, okay? However, the young man standing in front of you today, I would say was an exception to that rule. From the moment that this young man entered my room, he demonstrated a focused and grounded attention that I found quite admirable, okay? I still remember the first journal that you guys handed in for me for SAT, and the only person who scored in the top range on that journal was Matthias, okay? This is a young man who listens very, very well, okay? This quality is evident in the work that he does. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Matthias.
Thank you, Ms. Bob. Good morning. My name is Matthias Ache, and education. Once said, everybody in this country should learn how to program a computer because it teaches how to think. Partly for this reason, computer science has been proven to benefit anyone who studies it. Teaching problem solving and recursive thinking, which is solving a problem by solving a simple version of it, is called object-oriented programming. We should suggest that if we wish to encourage computer science to students to enter the field of computer science, we should focus on teaching computer science through object-oriented programming. When it comes to the topic of what grade schools should start teaching computer science, many do not believe that computer science should be taught in elementary. This argument ignores the question on how computer science should be taught. In interactive learning to stimulate the brain's visual center, Nunez Baptista emphasizes that stimulating the brain's visual components helps learning and is believed to be the most efficient way to teach computer science other than language-based approach. A number of studies have suggested that learning computer science and long-term benefits. In an article published by the Universal Journal of Education, Faith Sultan says, started programming at an Basically, this message saying that teaching computer science in elementary schools improves mathematics and science skills. It can also teach personal skills such as patience, depth of thought, and many others. Similar courses are in school very limited, and the classes that are other do not attract students from diverse backgrounds. In an article titled Computer Science for All, published by the Obama administration in 2016, Megan Smith said that fewer than 50% of all high schools that offer any AP computer science courses in 2015, only 22% of those who took the exam were girls, and only 30% were African American or Latino students. These findings suggest that women, African Americans, and Latinos will be underrepresented in big technology companies in the next decade. Without a doubt, computer science is being taught at high schools and universities. Yet the problem of not having a good curriculum in elementary has negative effects on the future of computer science. In the business world, there are thousands of jobs that require computer science skills. Even more jobs to come in the future. Every type of company now has, or will soon have, a programming-based system for the benefit of the company. According to Lita Dishman, apart from companies in the technology sector, there are an increasing number of businesses relying on computer code. A software engineer can be easily working at Apple as they could work at a hospital or at an investment bank. We need to encourage and incentivize computer science education to help fill those jobs that will definitely be desired by companies. To address the lack of computer science in elementary school, Schools need to incentivize teaching computer science early in school. We can start by making technology curriculums which focus on core computer science benchmarks, logic, and all other learning methodologies. This evidence shows that computer science education can be perfectly integrated into elementary and middle school curriculums. According to Niagara-Adams, universities should incentivize and prioritize retaining students interested in minoring and taking computer science courses. I agree that universities should prioritize computer science majors and minors because thousands of high-paying. In my opinion, this solution can lead to more demand for a computer science education, which increases funding for computer science classes, kindergarten to 12. Other solutions that have been suggested include applying a self-regulatory policy which will reform curriculums for technology that exists. Classes need to focus on core concepts in elementary, middle school, and high school. In the meantime, provide resources to train and recruit higher quality computer science teachers. If we hire more high quality teachers, then students will receive a higher quality education, especially in computer science. Discovery, as well as step-by-step problem solving. If university prioritizes computer science, more students will change their major. Guban and Utfaro suggest in the article object and inheritance concepts by software that computer science should be taught in a manner that focuses on object-oriented programming. They concluded that there is a great need to develop a new teaching method that will help to support the next generation with efficient programming and loop training, which is another word for object-oriented programming. When former U.S. President Barack Obama was in the White House, he endorsed improving computer science education. Dana Smith's article, Computer Science for All, mentions some of the methodologies that the Obama administration called for. Obama allocated $4 billion to states and $100 million to direct them to school, to grades kindergarten to 12. He encouraged governors and majors to boost computer science education. As a result, more than 30 United States districts have agreed to expand computer science possibilities. Over the past 3 years, schools have offered computer science as an oral elective or a technology class. According to Niagara-Adams, schools need to make programming classes and computer science classes to a core class, not elective. Our actual build process was quite different from what my advisor and I had planned. During the building process, I met with my advisor twice, both meetings which were taken after school, and both for more than an hour. Originally, I proposed to create a new curriculum for computer science education for grades kindergarten to 12. Instead, my advisor and I created a checklist of 10 different computer science approaches which can be applied in school and in life. For example, this is a checklist that was completed by 5th grade Ms. Asim. And in the first box, you can see that it contains the computer science approach or the definition of a computer science term. In the next box, you get an example or an elementary school example or a real life example to facilitate teachers to help understand better the computer science approach. And in the last box, we left it blank so that teachers could give out what they did in their classes. And for example, in the first box, you can see that algorithmic approach can relate to the science fair project that the 5th grade did in their class. To test the prototype, I shared a checklist with a total of 6 teachers from kindergarten to 5th, 1 in each grade. We tested the checklist a week before and needed to present my own presentation. This was done in order to maximize data and generate clear results. On my own time, I went to the CMS elementary building. Since I didn't want to interrupt any teachers, I went during when they were currently not teaching. On my first trip, I found 4 teachers who were willing to test the checklist. The next day, on my own time, I gave the other 2 checklists to teachers I could not reach on my first day. I found that I needed to clarify what my purpose was and how the checklist functioned as part of my testing process. As a result, All the elementary teachers who used my checklist were surprised of how much computer science approaches they use in class. But these results did not come as a surprise to me and my advisor. When I analyzed my research, me and my advisor proved that all teachers grade kinder to fifth uses computer science approaches. All 10 approaches that we introduced were checked off at least once. Anyhow, no teacher put a check in all 10 approaches in their individual checklist. All grades I shared were already teaching computer science approaches in some way or another. No teacher was aware of it. I realized that teachers need help relating this to computer science. I believe that if teachers change the way to teach to consciously integrate computer science skills into the elementary curriculum, the amount of students who study computer science will increase and fill new jobs in the field as well as the ones that are open right now. Now that the need for computer science education in elementary has been established, scientists would like to turn their attention to how computer science should be taught. As mentioned before, there are many methods that could lead to a better education in computer science. Further work in this area may lead to the development of a new curriculum for computer science education. By pushing computer science forward, we can incentivize computer science as a career and fill the thousands of jobs that are being created in this field each year. In conclusion, how we teach computer science needs to change. Learning how to better teach computer science will not only make more programmers, it will also foster and improve the mathematical skills and problem-solving skills of elementary students. Computer science is an interesting and rich field. It requires logic, which is the science that deals with principles and the criteria of validity. It intersects with argumentation, rationality, and many more. My findings should be of interest to any school with a growth mindset, because creating a new curriculum focusing on computer science helps create a better environment for teachers for the teachings of computer science, as well as it can help students be prepared for life beyond the classroom. Thank you.
Computer science and like technology in general is an ever-changing, ever-evolving. How would you be able to keep the kids updated with the new changes in programs and all these things? Because this is still a very evolving area, and so how would you be able to keep them updated and up to the degree of the change that is happening?
Yes. The computer science degrees are the people who make the advances in technology and the ever-changing advances. So if we teach elementary students to learn how to program, they will be in the process as well as of improving technology, and will improve technology in the future as well.
The mic is not working.
And don't work. Go ahead.
Yeah. sorry about that. Yes, of course.
This year I've been studying computer science and object-oriented programming, and I know that it's a very complex topic and difficult to grasp, even for us, like 12th graders. So I want to know if you thought of a way to make it a curricular shift for students in lower grades to understand it better.
Yes, very good question. Me and my advisor brainstormed about what we could do in new curriculums for elementary, and we came up with was that a computer science teacher who is like trained with high quality teachers could like make videos or like make problem solving equations or problems that could that within elementary level teachings, and it could like change as mathematics changes in between grade levels.
Matthias, can you go back to the slide where you show those skills that you are proposing be the core of the elementary curriculum? As I understand, that's what you're proposing.
This slide.
Go back even further. I think you had a document up at the very beginning that listed some critical skills.
This,
Are these the things that you were testing in the thing you gave to teachers?
yes, and as well, I tested on like computer science definitions or terms that is like that contain like in every other subject, and that as well is elementary teachers as well teach that.
Can we go back and see your prototype again? I'm interested in the way that these things like patience, depth of thought, attention to detail move forward into that right there, yeah.
You can see that I also integrated attention to detail, pattern recognition, collaborative skill.
And scaffolding. Okay, so in answer to Amanda's question, you're not planning to teach people like the latest thing. It's a skills-based curriculum.
Yes.
And you're asserting that these things will always be important in computer science.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see.
That's good.
And like, what do you think will be the biggest challenge while implementing these in elementary schools? And like, why have people been holding back so far? Like, why hasn't this not already been?
The reason that people is because they think that computer science is like this big idea that it is impossible to teach and it requires like only high school students, and that's the reason. And this is why I proved that elementary is being taught in computer science, and it can be arranged to create a new curriculum in elementary. Yes.
There's an elementary tech curriculum that goes with the tech facilitators, and are you proposing that this curriculum be pushed into sort of the regular classroom and have that standalone tech curriculum with computer science aspects in it as well?
Yes, that can be a really good solution. But as well, the tech curriculum in elementary only teaches students how to use a computer. And computer science is much more than just computers. It teaches you how to think, which I said before. And it's like really different from like the computer tech classes that elementary use right now. And like it can really relate like to mathematics or sciences as well.
So I obviously know what object-oriented programming is, but Ms. Russell here was whispering that she doesn't know what it means. Can you try to explain it to her?
Yes, as I said like in my introduction, that object-oriented program is like solving a problem by solving a simple version of it. And like if you have a problem, you try to solve simple versions of it. So when you get to this problem, you will be able to solve it.
So you learn the thinking moves you need to solve a problem by doing less complex problems.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay. A contained problem before the social mess.
Yes. Yes.
Here in school, we teach AP computer science in only 1 year. So why do you think it's so necessary to teach it like 10 years of your life or 12?
Because as I said in my conclusion and in my problem paragraph, that it improves your mathematics and problem solving skills, as well all the personal skills that I said before, and it can really help like with everything like mathematics, sciences, even writing as well. Let's go ahead.
You said that during Obama's term, he had to fund for these programs to be implemented in schools. They're very expensive, and why do they have to efficient one?
In the scope of my research, I didn't find like it was so expensive. I think that Obama allocated this $4 billion because it was a nationwide implementation, and I think that's why it's so expensive. But I don't think that implementing computer science in elementaries is that expensive. I just think that it needs to change the curriculum.
This question might be out of the scope of your research. I know you had some slides up there about the United States. I was wondering if in your research you had found examples of countries that have been able to successfully implement computer science into their own.
No, I haven't found other countries that have successfully implemented computer science. But I also found that in Europe there's also an incentive to implement computer science in elementary.
So I want to clarify what you did with your prototype. After you identified the moves that make up computing mind, that
Yes.
lead to object-oriented programming, you asked teachers to go through and tell you whether or not they do this in some way in their
Yes.
classroom already. And I thought I heard you say that 100% of the teachers were teaching all of the skills?
Yes, they were teaching all of the skills, but not like what I said that was that all teachers mark a check out of the checklist, but not one teacher mark all 10.
Okay. So all of the teachers are teaching some of the skills,
Yes.
but not necessarily conscious that the exercise they're doing is
Yes.
leading toward training and object-oriented
Yes.
programming. So it won't be expensive because we're already doing
Yes,
it.
we're already doing, but the solution is like to the teachers consciously integrate computer science in their curriculum, not and it could help better and also incentivize computer science in the future. Yeah.
I believe there are many public schools that cannot afford computers because when you teach like computer science, you have to have computers. So what are the solutions suggested?
Okay, I'm going to say to you that you're wrong. Computer science doesn't have to be teach through computers. Computer science is a language, like any other language, like English or Spanish. And you use a computer, like computer science is what you use to program machines. And you translate that with a computer. But you don't necessarily have to use computers for teaching computer science.
It's a huge idea.
Cool.
Any other questions?
That's my goal.
Yeah. just coming into the house today, I'd like you to make sure you take out your cell phone, check that it's off, turn it all the way off and put it back, put it away. There are people in the house who are using technology. Our tech team is here. They're recording the presentation so that students can use the recorded footage in creating their final draft. But those are the only people in the house who need access to their personal devices during this time. I want to remind you, if you're a senior currently in the senior extended essay class, by the end of this week, you have to post 2 reviews of presentations that you've watched. So that's an appropriate use of technology, and I'm sure the students from last term will tell you it's better to do it sooner and get it done than to wait until the last minute and be trying to remember what you saw. So if you do it like after you see a presentation that really inspires you, or you see someone do something really, really well, just get on the forum that's on the Moodle site and tell them that, okay? Make sure you give each other compliments and help each other learn. It's always a delight and it seems like a miracle to me as the presentations start to unfold. I love watching the way that the presentations talk to each other. Ms. Anderson was mentioning this before. We live in a complex and complicated world, and it is easy as a sophomore to say, the government should fix education, or the private sector should invest in alternative energy, or we need to educate our children better. But as we become adults, we realize that the world is a complicated place. And this can cause a lot of existential anxiety. It's kind of scary to realize how much there is for human beings to manage in the world. But then you discover your intellect, and you realize that we are given this amazing capacity to solve problems. The presentation we just saw from Matthias really focused on this, the fact that we have the capacity to train our minds to solve the problems that we face. We are not without these gifts. The young man who is about to present to you is a young man who manifests these gifts. I think all of you know his reputation in terms of calculation and problem solving. It has been proved against greater challenges than I could present. However, the challenge to transfer what you can do mathematically and logically into spoken and written language, into language you can communicate to others so that the problem can be solved by the group, that's a very special skill. This is a skill that I think we find in full measure in Ramon Serrano. Please welcome him.
Thank you very much for coming. My name is Ramon Serrano, and I conducted my research for the SE spring semester on autonomous vehicles and the effects that these vehicles have on our everyday environments. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the future. A driverless future, of course. Autonomous vehicles have gradually become a global phenomenon in both civilian and military environments. Self-driving cars are no longer science fiction. Companies like Tesla and Google have pioneered an automotive revolution which went closer than we may think. With a self-driving reality nearing, proper decisions must be taken in order to ensure that we go in the correct direction. Utilitarianism-based robotics, which I will go more into depth in the presentation, raises much concern for automakers, lawmakers, and the general civilians. This next generation of robots must be prepared to interact safely and reliably with human drivers. Therefore, it is no surprise that our greatest concerns lie on the human side of it, not on the hardware side of it. Innovative technology or impending disaster, how the move towards autonomous vehicles should be managed. There are 3 main issues which face autonomous vehicles today. A fervent social dismay of autonomous vehicles causes general distrust by the public. Public trust in these machines is by far the greatest issue challenging driverless cars. As humans, we simply do not willingly give up control. It's not in our nature. To put it simply, acceptance of these cars on the public roads is a definite issue and a definite problem. After all, the market demand will be controlled by us humans, so it is only sure that public favor needs to be in favor in order to further the development of autonomous vehicles. Another present issue is that of morality and ethical decision-making. These vehicles are not necessarily equipped, as us humans are, to assess situations of danger and situations of emergency while on the road. Given their lack of emotion, driverless cars must be prepared to overcome dutifully and ethically these difficult situations. A final problem persistent to the autonomous vehicle and the autonomous cars in general is the coined phrase hardware versus software. It faces the issue that cars like Tesla and Google, which are not automotively rooted companies, have a very present issue where they are not able to manage correctly or balance out their hardware side and their software side. A recent survey by the AAA, or the American Automotive Association, has definitely showed a very increasing issue on driving driverless cars. In order to raise public trust, we first need to raise the fear into cars. Right now, there's 75% of US drivers that were surveyed by the AAA revealed that they feared a driverless car future. They also presented an abnormally high rate for accidents in the study. It seemed to be approximately 3,000 accidents each day in the US, of which all of these are fatal. Roads are the leading cause of deaths among young people in the US, and these are young, healthy individuals. So when we look at these kinds of numbers, we really have to face what kind of challenges and what kind of decisions these robots will have to take. Looking at this statistics, 165,000 miles are the average amount that an American driver will drive before it is eventually in a crash. Google has taken these numbers and raised them up to over 300,000 miles, something that to us is just astronomically large and phenomenal. Now the real question is human error and how it faces autonomous vehicles. There's an ever-present truth that autonomous vehicles are just better drivers and they are more effective. These cars are able to reduce the amount of damage simply because they are just better. They are more efficient, they are more poised, and their overall against pure human error is just ridiculous. Although a shocking 94% of road accidents in the US are caused by pure human error, it's only logical that an acceptance in this rising technology should be used. Donald Light, an automotive executive, predicts that insurance premiums will rise above the 15-year gap. This is because, given that insurance premiums will be effectively lowered, given that people simply won't be in as many crashes as they fear, these insurance premiums will raise the US account, which is at 1.3 million crashes per year, and it will effectively reduce it by some experts, specifically Donald Light, by about 40%. Commuters and a rising urban sprawl have exponentially risen in the car sales over the past 10 years, causing a heavy rise in commuting over the cities and a heavy rise in the amount of people that are in and out, the amount of travelers and the amount of road that is covered by vehicles, something that has not been seen in the past decade. This is a graph about Google's self-driving cars over time. These are the amount of continuous autonomous miles driven. As you can see, in the past year, from 2015 to 2016, they've driven close to 600,000 miles of autonomous on public roads. They've only averaged 17 accidents, of which only was caused by the vehicle. All 16 other accidents were caused by other drivers who carelessly crashed into the Google's vehicle. Then again comes the problem with, there was one crash, which was caused by the machine, and this crash cannot go unnoticed. It's a crash that we must look at the car and we must work on it. Google's policy, after reaching the 2 million mile mark, has been to develop a technology in an innovative sense. The way they integrate it is that each ride or each journey that one of their self-driving cars takes assesses the situation and assesses the gravity and the emergency, and it brings all of this into helping further develop the already autonomous software they have. This works by engineers, after each single drive, will sit down on their computer and have an in-depth search about what happened, what caused certain cars to take certain actions, and overall, it created an effective solution for a system that now is prevalent in Tesla, Volvo, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, which are all car manufacturers which are implementing the same tactics that Google implements. As Google increases their fleet more and more, situations that these cars come across and their reactions will all be recorded. Once the car has recognized these situations from previously, it will not make the same mistake twice. And this is what it's all about, not making the same mistake twice. Another particular issue which plagues the self-driving or autonomous car community is that of ethical decision-making. There is a common problem in modern psychological thought called the trolley problem. Some of you may be familiar with it, but it consists of a moving vehicle with passengers inside, which faces a situation in which it can either take path A or path B. Path A being a concrete wall, which will effectively kill the people inside the car, as tragic as it may be, and path 2 would be decimating the bystanders in the middle of the way. These kinds of issues, although very rare and rarely occur on the road, are issues that self-driving cars must face and must properly adhere to. We look at these cars, and the moral dilemma consists that if the car turns to veer to the left, it will essentially decimate the humans inside it. And this famous ethical dilemma is the basis for the growing concern surrounding the vehicle. As a prominent psychologist, Dr. Myers, puts it, the objective is to find a consideration that normal humans will take into account. Although Myers put the problem simply, really much field tests conducted by MIT and Google has proven quite otherwise. A long-term study by MIT surveyed over 3 million drivers, one of the largest surveys ever to take place by the institution. Myers presented that, to much surprise, the only agreed-upon solution through MIT's study was that there was no agreed-upon solution. People just couldn't make their minds up if they would go left or they would go right. It just wasn't done. As part of my prototype, I conducted a similar test to MIT's study. What I did was I surveyed 20 young drivers from here, Carroll Morgan, and I presented similar situations to the trolley problem and also a questionnaire behind it. These are my results, or the shortened version, of course. MIT's results show 76% of the 3 million people they surveyed would sacrifice their life or a passenger's for 10 bystanders, a really selfless approach, and what we call in the autonomous car world, utilitarianism robotics. Utilitarianism robotics is essentially the idea that we will damage control, or we would at least reduce the amount of damages in the number of fatal lives. The results, of course, if we ask the person that they're willing to get in a car that will eventually kill you if it comes to the correct situation, resulted in very different results. Personally, I asked the people, approximately 0% of the surveyed said they would purchase such car, knowing that in certain situations it might have to take your life. MIT's approach showed a larger percentage, but still incredibly low, and this further shows that public trust in these cars is extremely low. The next 30 years will eventually see an unrivaled growth in both the self-driving cars and this technology, but it is pivotal that we find a common ground for the topic. Given that the chances of this actual situation or the trolley problem occurring are extremely low, Tesla's engineers have given a different approach to the situation. They actually believe that there is no issue at all with the trolley problem because the way they see it, the car is able to drive better than the human, it never goes over the speed limit, and it follows each rule by the book. Essentially, a human could trigger these kind of issues, but the car couldn't. We might find this hard to believe, but according to MIT, a human would react the same way as a driverless car would react, like a deer in the headlights. With a split second to react and no reason to go the other way or the other way, there really is no way why the superior drivers of the human could trigger the issue at all. The viewers presented at Tesla claim that any human driving this car would not react the same as the vehicle, and they say it is more unethical to judge the vehicle based on how it will react, given that us humans cannot come to a conclusion ourselves. If the people at Silicon Valley don't know how to react, then how can they have the car react by itself? It's just not correct, and it simply is not good robotics. The final present issue is hardware versus software. Companies like Google and Tesla are not automotively rooted companies. These are technology companies created in the past years, in the case of Tesla, and they really have nothing they know in the automotive industry. Part of Google's success was developing a LiDAR, or light detection and recognition system. What essentially this device does is it plays on the roof of the vehicle and emits these lasers which create a 3D environment. The 3D environment is the one which we see autonomous vehicles use, and it's the environment that we see these vehicles go through. Both companies are gearing towards expanding their share of the market, and this is in the case of Volvo and Tesla. They've announced different solutions to the issue. Essentially, Volvo said that it will take all liability for any autopilot crash. So essentially, Volvo will tell its customers that it will pretty much take the blame if any autopilot crash goes on. whereas Tesla records that a 40% fall in accidents were enacted after the engagement of autopilot features on their vehicles. As stated before, every 165,000 miles, there is a fatal car crash in the US for the average American. Google has reduced these numbers to 300,000 miles. This is a ridiculous amount of miles to drive before an accident, and it's one of the things that we should really look forward to. The leading manufacturer of commercial vehicles at the moment, which is Tesla, has created a solution for the robo-ethical dispute. Their vehicles offer an effective autopilot system which puts the driver in command immediately after any grave situation. Disengagement is the name of this situation. Disengagement is when the autonomous computer stops working and it senses an imminent danger and gives the wheel back to the person, back to the driver. Google has released their statistics on these. These are based on the state of California's Department of Motor Vehicles, and it records the total number of disengagements in the year 2016. Google traveled a total of 643,000 miles autonomously, and it only recorded 124 total disengagements. This averages out to about 6,000 miles per disengagement. If we look at 6,000 miles per disengagement, this means that the vehicle could potentially go from Los Angeles to New York and back without ever having the driver take over. This is a remarkable feat, not only in the engineering world, but also in the autonomous car world and for civilians. This could very much change the way we move around, and transportation industry as a whole could come to a halt. It's also important to note that most of these disengagements occurred on city streets, which goes to show that there still is work to be done. The software is not in command, as 51 of the disengagements were due to software, but then again, these numbers are minuscule compared to the amount of miles driven in total. As for my proposed solutions in order to fix the world of autonomous cars and ensure a greater impact in the future, we first need to continue legislative efforts, similar to the ones in California, Nevada, and Michigan. These are currently the 3 states which hold mostly the headquarters for most car brands. And what they do here is that California law requires all automotive and autonomous driving vehicles to report specific data over back to them. So now, when we look at these kinds of breaches of information, there's a big issue with privacy. People are not aware, and people are just frankly not happy with the sense that if Tesla collects data on you, they're required by law to report it to the DMV. And it's one of those drawbacks of these emerging technologies. But still, the problem with legislative efforts is that it is the only probable solution in order to increase the amount of cars outside. Another solution is to subsidize manufacturers. Although when, in public opinion, a grant or subsidy to a corporate environment or a corporate company does not really go well, the truth is that the traffic solutions in the US are not good at all. Public transportation is much better than, say, the Dominican Republic, but there is still an amount of crash and an amount of danger that is imminent and not present in other environments. In order to roll off more cars off the assembly line and create more public transportation for the people, they should subsidize these car manufacturers in order to make Tesla build more cars. At the moment, companies like Tesla and Volvo and Google are not able to make profit out of the self-driving technology. They have to go to other resources. And this is something that we should fix in order to implore the technology and to invite it into the automotive industry. A final solution is to implement these self-driving technologies into car-sharing services, such as Uber, Lyft, or Zipcar. By integrating the driverless technology as part of their fleets, they create a more efficient transportation system, and an Uber driver would still have to be in the vehicle in case of an emergency. This driverless technology would bring about a new era for these drivers, and it boosts public acceptance of the car overall. Some of you may know that Uber's self-driving car did not have a good reputation, as it was involved in a series of crashes. And this is the kind of situation where we look at car makers like Google and Tesla, which opposed to other rooted manufacturers, they do not keep their information private. They're more open about it, and they allow for room to grow for the entire industry. Car manufacturers around the globe are anxious to hop onto the bandwagon that is self-driving technology. BMW and Cadillac are among the newcomers in this situation, and the entry of more competitors, especially ones with deep roots in the automotive industry, will be pivotal to the distribution of new competitors. Overall, the issue at hand is still greatly unfixed, and public trust issues, as well as the software versus hardware problem, are great concerns. The ethical decisions that a Tesla will take when you are driving it is still under much debate, and civilians fear the power that is behind the vehicle. As far as we can analyze, the safety benefits will go through the roof if we enter these cars. Also, traffic in general will be subsidized and will be more fluid. In short, the although near future requires tremendous cumulative effort by both manufacturers and lawmakers. We must look back and ask ourselves, how many railroads turned into airlines when air travel came along? Yes.
How do these cars do environmentally? Because with the current cars we have, they pollute a lot of the air. So would these be better environmentally, or would they just be the same?
Well, essentially that is up to the manufacturer. At this point, Google's cars and Tesla's cars are all completely eco-friendly because they are electric vehicles. Volvo has some electric vehicles in their fleet, but the autopilot technology is available to all vehicles. BMW has a similar system where it's available for some cars, but not all models. It's great that you mentioned the ecological appeal of these vehicles, because it's one of the big issues going into the future of the automotive industry. Lots of people not only look at electric cars because of their regulation and how safe they are and pretty much how good they are for the environment, but when one of the major plans when looking at, like you mentioned, ecological vehicles, is the fact that if we can implement this kind of technology, we're looking at a completely different future. Yes.
So in the future we do move it like to a future where we drive autonomous cars. What do you think will happen with the companies that aren't developing right now their own autonomous cars and with the competition, what do you think will be going?
Well, as of right now, the technology such as the LiDAR sensors and all the preemptive braking systems are all patented out there, and they are for public use. Of course, like you mentioned, as it becomes more prevalent, manufacturers will become more private on their information, and they won't want to share it out. And this is one of the issues that we have to look at more the public side of it, not the private entity side of it, in order to kind of boost or incentivize this kind of growth in the automotive industry. Yes?
Do you have a hypothesis as to why CMS results were different than MIT results on your survey?
My hypothesis for that would be that CMS students, first of all, we are young drivers compared to the vast amount of drivers that MIT surveyed. And so one might think that as a young driver, you might want to take more risks. But it actually showed that we had a more selfish approach to the problem. And I think this is just part of human nature. My sample is actually quite small. If my sample were a bit more comparable to MIT's, then the results would probably be more significant. Yes.
Ramon, I'm wondering something. I think your brain is probably more outfitted to calculate these sort of things than mine. So I'm gonna propose this to you. So you're talking about human error and kind of how that gives shape to the current driving situation globally. If we see more and more autonomous vehicles on the road, that's obviously going to sort of change the configuration of driving patterns on larger and larger levels. How do you project, do you see that as traffic conditions becoming safer then as time goes on because it's a little bit more predictable and mechanized in that sense? Or what other implications do you see coming out of that as things change in that regard?
Actually, I think that autonomous vehicles right now, they are extremely well suited to dealing and predicting human drivers. Google's information about disengagements showed that they had a total of 6 disengagements due to the prediction of other traffic participants. What this means is that over those 600,000 miles that they traveled, they only disengaged 6 times because they weren't able to predict what a human driver was doing or how that human driver was going to take a turn or not stop or not give the rite of passage. So it's, yes, to answer your question, yes, if we do bring in more driverless cars into the field, they will be able to communicate between them, and it will offer, as said before, much more fluid traffic, and overall, just a safer environment for everybody. Yes, please.
How do you think, why do you think people don't trust autonomous cars yet?
Well, most of the distrust comes from the general atmosphere that, psychologically speaking, humans don't like to give up control. If you're given the option to have control of the vehicle or not, you will most definitely take control of the vehicle. It's very difficult for one to sit in a seat and just see the steering wheel turn on its own. And so the thing with driverless cars is that it's very difficult for us as humans to admit and just go honestly that we are not as good drivers as we are. We get distracted, we are on phones, we might go to sleep, we might even be driving under the influence. And all these facts are extremely big factors when we decide how autonomous vehicles should go about. Really, I mean, it's kind of difficult to say because as a driver, one does not want to admit that you're a bad driver or anything, but driving, for example, in this country is extremely aggressive. And it's these kind of things that we might be distracted and not paying attention, and these cars are just always on the lookout. They never blink an eye, and they never go to sleep until told to do so. Yes?
Do you think that implementing this type of technology, so just like the VR, it doesn't have well-constructed air goals, like necessarily, and would it be equally safe than implementing this in the US?
Personally, lots of people would say that it wouldn't be safe, but from my opinion and the research I've gathered, I believe that it would be incredibly safe to bring a driverless car to the Dominican Republic. I say this because a driverless car, again, is looking at all variables and all externalities and all options. With these kinds of vehicles, probably their biggest issue that they will have here is getting used to it. But as mentioned before, the way these vehicles work is straight out of the factory. Their autonomous driving is horrible. These vehicles are not good at all straight out of the factory. But as you log more and more miles into the vehicle, it will record how you personally drive, and it will record specific scenarios, which over time will improve upon itself. Similar to the mottos that I believe that to bring these cars to the Dominican Republic, we have based on this country or not, if any at all, with the way that the lanes are marked for these vehicles to identify. Yes.
Did I understand correctly that cars will be on?
Yes, the prediction feature on all cars. Driving to many people is a pleasure. People like to drive, and it's fun. We're just saying that the auto for maybe when you're taking your mind, this is a drivers around you and yourself.
These type of cars are going by not doing it again.
Well, it really comes down to, an entire department of thousands of engineers are almost always, most of these self-driving cars, it is true that a plethora of different driven over time will eventually make up for this. I don't have the data up here for results for the 2016.
Be at school on Friday. One of those days being a half day and one being a special schedule. For that reason, and I would really love those students to have an audience. So I am encouraging you to take a look at the schedule.